Hi guys, welcome to Legal Research. Now, law has mapped out all the skills, knowledge and attribute that graduates need to be competent, qualified legal practitioners. And part of that mapping process has identified a need for research skills and a range of other skills, and they have been concentrated in this unit. So we will be looking at not just research skills, but communication skills, and that means orally and in writing, critical thinking skills, and we will also introduce you to the concept of reflective practice. We also have a little bit of student and practitioner wellness built in as well, because our aim is to make you a rounded legal practitioner and prepare you for the reality of legal practice. Now, you may just be thinking, I just want to be a lawyer, I don't want to be involved in government, this law reform stuff is not really relevant to legal practice. And that's a natural assumption to make, but it's certainly not the case. A large range of organisations will make public submissions to law reform commissions, including lawyers. If you work as a lawyer in a community legal centre, a not-for-profit organisation, or a large firm that specialises in the area under review, you may be asked to help prepare a submission by your supervisors. And that's because lawyers understand the problematic areas of the law, both in theory and in practice. We see the failings of the system and the problematic areas every day in practice. We identify the areas that are problematic for our clients and can suggest potential solutions, or at the very least potential improvements that could be made. Lawyers are committed to the administration of the justice system and the rule of law, and also significantly committed to the communities in which they practice. Being a lawyer involves a lot of pro bono work and a lot of community engagement, and so they understand that making submissions to law reform commissions on topics that may result in positive changes for their community is an important part of their role in the community. Even if you work as a lawyer in a business, so you're either an in-house lawyer or you work in a legal role, you may still be asked to make submissions to law reform commissions. For example, if you work in a mining company, they might have something to say about proposed changes that are relevant to mining or native title or rights over land, etc. So if you work in any of those areas, you may find that your supervisor requests you to become involved in researching and preparing a submission. Note that if you go into working in government, you won't necessarily be involved in making submissions, but part of the role of a lawyer in government is to look more broadly than just the practice of the law, but at policy. So you may be asked to provide a supervisor in government in your organisation or department. You may be asked to provide them with advice about the practical or policy implications of a potential change in that particular area. So don't be fooled. This law reform process is really central to something that lawyers engage with, and it's likely that you will come across at least one in your time in practice. And that means that what we're looking at now is not only something that you might be asked to do as a newly qualified lawyer or a trainee, but we're actually also making sure that you're skilled to do those tasks when requested to do so by your supervisor. So finally, I just wanted to give you a couple of quick tips for the road ahead. And the first is really obvious, but please bear with me. The first is be organised. Researching and writing takes time. You will make mistakes, you'll go down the wrong path, you will decide to refocus in a slightly different direction, and none of the stuff that came before that point is wasted. The mistakes are not a waste. The going down the wrong path is not a waste, and redirecting yourself in a different way, again, is not a mistake. It's part of the learning process. And I cannot tell you how many times I scrubbed out a chapter of my PhD thesis, threw it away and started again. It's actually perfectly normal. But what that means is that you have to allow for those mistakes, those starting over again situations, or looking at something from a different perspective. But you need to allow for that time in your planning process so that you're not up against it, against the deadline, still typing, furiously typing your project up when you should just be proofreading it for grammar and typos. So please think about how you're going to plan your time over the course of the term. It's really important for a unit like this where all of the assessment is loaded on the process and producing one final piece. Please also think about structuring your notes. So when you're taking notes on what you've located, how are you going to organize those notes? You're going to get quite a lot of information out of the sources. How are you going to organize that information before you start the writing process? You also need to think about what method you're going to use to locate the sources that you need. So what databases are you going to look at? What search terms are you going to use? Are you looking for just legal secondary sources or interdisciplinary ones? What statutes and cases are also relevant? And can you note up those sources and find out if anything's happened since those particular dates, since the last case, for example? So you need to be thinking about the method by which you're going to get the information that you need, rather than just sitting down and going, today I'm going to do research, and typing in some search terms that have popped into your brain at that point in time. It needs to be more methodical than that to make sure that you get all the information you need to make the project the best that it can be. Now, second tip is, please don't be too hard on yourself. As I said earlier, you're going to make mistakes. You're going to get frustrated in the process. There will be times when you feel like you're not making progress, and then there'll be a flurry of activity and then back to not making much progress again. That's all part of being a researcher. It's all part of the learning journey, and it's all perfectly normal. It's a learning process. The idea is that you get much better over time. So by the time we hit week 12, you'll be more efficient at researching, and hopefully those thoughts will come more quickly and more clearly to you as you're writing as well. Remember that the journey is just as important as the destination in this kind of unit.
That brings me to the end of this first video. Thanks for watching.